class. You can just go back. Yeah, thanks. I'll talk a bit more about that one there. Where was I? So for my lower level class, we were more focused on getting the home learning packs to the students and making sure that they were acquainted with them. So then after the holidays in week 1, it became apparent for this lower level we really needed to video call them. We tried voice calling alone, but it wasn't successful with the students not being able to see the teacher and our gestures. They really needed that extra support. So for this first week and second week, our main focus was to get all the students onto a video calling platform. And there are 4 main apps we used for this: Emo, WhatsApp, FaceTime, and Line. And there were a few driving forces behind the successful implementation of these apps. The first is the students' families, usually their children, who have been incredibly helpful in downloading these apps for their parents. Now they're at home, we've been able to connect with the students' families in a way that's been really beneficial, and also just the general support network. Friends, neighbours have been really helpful. So the second reason is a lot of our African students already had an app called Emo, which we'd never heard of before. So initially we were trying to get them on all the apps that we knew about: WhatsApp, FaceTime. But once we discovered that they had Emo, they knew how to use it, they knew how to navigate it. We were able to harness these skills that they already had to deliver the lessons. We also had a couple of drop-in sessions at our neighbourhood centre where we teach classes, and so our management team was able to help the students download the apps. And this process took weeks. There's been lots of back and forth with us and the students. We've even been using Google Translate for the process. It's still going on for some students. The ones who are left behind are the ones who don't have data or smart devices, and management have been working on getting these resources to the students. So in weeks 3 and 4, we began to establish a bit more of a routine. So we mail or drop off weekly or fortnightly packs. Then on the phone, we do various activities to scaffold the learner to complete the activities in the pack, and then give them homework. Having said that, I think the material that we have been giving out has been scaffolded at a slightly lower level than in class, since the students have to deal with the digital literacy as well. So currently students are becoming more familiar with the routines involved in learning at home and the digital skills required, although there is still work to be done. As teachers, we are also experimenting with different apps, platforms and tools in order to find the best forms of engagement for our students. Just yesterday, I created some Google Forms with videos and comprehension questions in order to measure how ready students are for their assessments. Many of our teachers have also bought mini whiteboards, which I've found to be really useful. And for the student, it establishes the familiarity of a classroom environment. So I send a text every morning asking them what the day, date and weather is, and then on whichever digital platform we're using, I'll elicit it from them again, or now they are just providing it to me automatically, and then I'll write it on the board so they can see it. So we do this every day in the normal classroom. So we've been able to establish this same routine, but give students a chance to engage in the task in a multimodal way. So basically going forward, it's a matter of us collecting evidence of participation, assessing the students and engaging the students in learning and keeping them engaged. And since we don't have an infinite amount of hours in the day, it can be difficult to contact every student and have a decent lesson with them. But then on the other hand, it's been beneficial to be able to spend that one-on-one time with them and provide greater personalisation. Next slide, thanks. So the WhatsApp group, on the other hand, has been really useful in engaging multiple students at once. This was set up for my slightly higher level. There are about 12 students who are active members, the majority of whom are Vietnamese. Then there are the rest who weren't able to access it or who weren't active in it due to not having sufficient data, digital literacy skills or smart devices. So for the students who do have it, their engagement has been really impressive. I think they've probably participated more in the WhatsApp group for more days than they actually attend class. So this may be just because they're at home all the time, but I think it's also because the WhatsApp group have given them a chance to engage in learning in a different multimodal way. So we practice speaking and listening by sending voice messages and videos, and reading and writing by sending text messages, photos of work, or I send pictures of what I've written on the whiteboard. And as teachers, we're able to send really personalised feedback to the students on WhatsApp by replying directly to their messages and correcting their photographed work using markup. Next slide, thanks. So for this level, their speaking and listening is generally a lot higher than their reading and writing. So we're using and improving these latter skills, and in a very communicative context, because they're constantly writing and reading messages throughout the day to their teachers or classmates. And conveniently, the unit for this term is reading and writing messages and forms. So this WhatsApp group has also shown how collaborative the learning process has been. A lot of their digital literacy skills were quite low to start with, but they have been really able to catch on by means of imitating what other students are doing and discussing on the phone with each other. So this has contributed to a sense of community and connection, which I think everyone is in need of right now. We've also been experimenting with the lower level class on WhatsApp. You can see this picture on the left-hand side. So these students are not yet equipped with the skills to type on their phone. So we've just been sending voice messages at this stage with the plan of soon upskilling them. Next slide, thanks. So in terms of the digital literacy side of things, this has been quite eye-opening for our team of teachers. Normally every Monday we have a technology afternoon where we work on various computer, phone and tablet skills. So we've been planning lessons and coming up with ideas based on various forms of needs analysis that have been actively carried out. But having gone through this whole remote learning process so spontaneously, it's been really interesting to see the skills that have naturally surfaced to show what students need in an authentic form of digital communication. So for the video calls that we do, we initially had problems with aiming the camera. There was a lot of video calls with ceilings or ears or feet. So that has improved over the weeks, which has been great, but there's still work to do. We'd like students to be able to show us their work up close. So we need to go back to the basics, flipping the camera, focusing the camera, also taking and sending photos so they can work independently when we can't video call them and receive quick feedback for their work. Also in terms of non-digital skills, many students in the lower level have been finding it hard to navigate their booklets. So we've realised that we probably have inadvertently in the classroom been providing too much support to them. So we need to work on helping our students to become more independent learners, and more specifically with the language surrounding the navigation of pages and learning materials. And this will be something that we will focus on upon the return to class, even though we don't know what it's going to look like come term 3. However, given the increase in student engagement during this period, I think some form of blended learning does seem an appropriate way forward. Basically, this remote learning process has shown us what students are capable of independently outside the classroom in the virtual world, and then what needs to be worked on in the actual classroom. And both of these potentials aim to empower the students with their learning, which we have seen already. Next slide, thanks. So overall, as you've probably picked up, it's been extremely varied in terms of what digital tools we're using for each student. Everything we have implemented has been very dependent on the level of the student in terms of both their language proficiency and their digital literacy skills. It's been about scaffolding our activities and learning tools to the right level. Reflecting and sharing ideas. So every Monday we have a staff Zoom meeting where we're able to debrief and share resources, and this has been really valuable. So it's been a learning journey in that there's been a lot of trial and error, but I think as we go along we're able to determine what works best, and hopefully we're able to harness these newly acquired skills or even the pre-existing skills that we weren't aware the students had into the post-coronavirus classroom. That's all. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
All right. Well, so thank you for your presentation. Okay. All right. So very nice presentation that has been presented just now by Emily Tucker from Columbus Adult Education Center. Okay. So before we go to the next speakers, which is it will be Dr. Anna Carey. So once again, I would like to remind that please to mute your and then for your questions, I'm sure there are many questions that you have got in your mind now. So if you have any question, you can always type it in the comment, yeah, in the here in the chat facility. So directly. Always it right now. So later in the question session, we will read your question one by one. I hope our time is enough to read all of the question, to answer all of the question. Okay, so now I would like to talk to Dr. Anna Carey. So are you still there, Anna?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I guess now is your turn. Whenever you're ready, Anna.
Okay, could I have the PowerPoint, please, Wangzo?
Of course. All right. Let me show you. Okay.
While Wangzo is loading that, I'm a lecturer at the Faculty of Education at Monash University, and I had the pleasure of coming to Makassar last September, I think it was, and was invited back this September, and I'm very disappointed that I won't be able to make it this September, but it's such a pleasure to be able to present online, and I'd like to thank Claire and Jessie and Emily for joining me today. We thought it would be a much richer presentation to be able to have the experience of different settings and from different teachers. So I work in undergraduate and postgraduate courses, and in particular in the early childhood area. So in the early childhood, I teach a third-year undergraduate course on professionalism, ethics and interdisciplinary work in education. And we have one cohort in Melbourne, 60 students, but they're not all actually domestic Australian students. Many of them are Chinese students, Chinese international students, and many of them are still in China at the moment. So that was a challenge for us to not only put our classes online, but to put them online so we were meeting the needs of the Chinese international students who couldn't make it back to Australia. As well, we have another cohort of students in Singapore, and usually in April we go and teach a 4-day intensive to those students in Singapore, but we're unable to this year. So we had to put our course online, and we have 145 students in Singapore who we teach. So could I have it please in?
Okay, well, so, all right. Here we go.
Okay. So maybe some of you remember me from last year, and I've noticed some of the names coming up, and it's nice to be back with you all again. Okay, so the next slide, please. So as part of our unit, all Monash University courses have an online platform called Moodle, which is a teaching platform So we were sort of already set up to a degree for teaching online. And in this online platform, we have the teaching team. We can click on these different icons up the top, the unit guide, which provides an outline of the course that we're teaching, a digitalised reading list. As the coordinator of this course, I make announcements regularly to the students, and those announcements go to their email. Students can ask a question anytime, which we respond to. There's student support, academic language resources, and online learning support, which is provided by other people at the university. So it's quite a comprehensive platform that we have in Moodle, and I'll talk to you about some of the activities that we do on Moodle. And because we've gone totally online for our unit this semester, we've engaged a lot more with the Moodle platform. Okay, next slide, please. So here are two of the tutors, Robin and Sharon, who teach with me. And the biggest challenge for us was that we haven't met any of the students who we're teaching this semester. The Melbourne students, their first class was online because we were just coming in Covid19, and then they went out to early childhood centres to do 2 weeks placement. So by the time they came back, the university had gone totally online with their classes. Then the students in Singapore are a different cohort to who we had taught before. So we decided to do an introductory video. I think it's a bit hard to pull it up, otherwise we could have watched it. But we thought we'd introduce ourselves. And we went to the National Gallery of Victoria, which is a beautiful setting where there's an education officer who shows school classes through and university students through and gives them education sessions. And we worked with him and did this introductory video to all our students. It's just 3 minutes, but just to tell them a little bit about ourselves to make it more personal. So next slide, please. So each week we do online lectures, which are live, and we record those online lectures, which then become available for those students who couldn't make it to the class. Monash University has an account with Zoom, so that's preferred platform. But because we have 145 students in Singapore, Zoom couldn't take that number of students. So we use the Adobe Connect Classroom for our online lectures. So it's a good classroom, and we use the chat session a lot to try and make it more interactive. But we find that Zoom is a much more flexible platform. So next slide, please. So for the Melbourne classes and for the Singapore tutorials, we use Zoom. So for Singapore, we do a 40-minute lecture on Adobe Connect Classroom. Then we all hang up, and then there's 5 tutors, and we split the 145 students in Singapore into 5 groups, and they come into a Zoom session for about 45 minutes, and that's where we do workshop type activities. It's much more interactive as we have 25 to 30 students per tutorial group, and we're able to split off into breakout rooms and have online discussions and chats and do more interactive type activities. So with attendance, we've had about 30 students out of this, maybe 35 students out of 60 in Melbourne consistently attend the online Zoom sessions every week. And many of those students, as I said, are in China. And then some of the Melbourne students are very busy because it's 5 o'clock on a Tuesday night, and a couple of them have families and are cooking their dinner for their families while we do our online lecture, and we get very hungry. And then 2 of the students are walking every day because we've been in lockdown in Melbourne, and exercise is one of the things that you can do outside. So we have quite a varied group online. Some are walking, some are cooking, and then we have the group in China who we're not sure what they're doing, because many of them can't put on their videos because of the internet issues, so we can't see their faces. So it's a tricky situation, really. It's hard to engage with students when we can't see their faces. So some of the activities we do online in Zoom, we have Padlet activities set up for each of the tutorial groups so that we can do like interactive and post their ideas on Padlet. Then we download the Padlet and put those up online on the Moodle. Okay, next slide, please. We have a digitalised reading list. So students are expected to do a key reading each week and at least 1 or 2 additional readings, which will help them with their assignment work and understand the ideas and concepts that we're talking about in class. There's key book chapters as well as journal articles that are made available to students, and the students in Singapore actually get a copy of a book, of a textbook, which we use, which they can do the readings from. Okay, thanks. Next. We try to make the online Moodle site as interactive as possible. So each week we have learning tasks. So for week 1, we had introduce yourself. And as you can see, this is the Singapore Moodle site, and we had 113 posts. Then your personal journey, we asked them to tell us a little bit about their journey as early childhood education educators, and they shared that. So they are able to read each other's posts, so get to know each other a little bit better, as well as we get to know who our students are. And we interact with those learning tasks as well as tutors. Thanks. We try to make the Moodle site as interactive as possible and have some fun activities as well. So sometimes we put up quizzes, which we find the students love doing. Next slide, thanks. And we don't just ask students to do the learning tasks. It might be about themselves or their journeys or whatever. Sometimes we ask them to do more graphic organised type activities to show their more conceptual understandings. So it might be a mind map, might be a brainstorm. Sometimes they're individual tasks, or if they do them on Zoom, when we have our tutorials, sometimes they're interactive classes. We find the Zoom whiteboard is a really good platform to use where students can work in groups and then share the work that they've done. Okay, thanks. Next slide. Whoops. We lost that one. We also put up video clips of practice to show students what sort of, especially in Singapore, the Singaporean students are expected to learn a little bit about what's going on in Australia in early childhood. So we find that by sharing video clips of practice of early childhood education in Australia is a good way to share what's happening in Australia. And we also draw on what resources we can find from Singapore. I've lost the PowerPoint, Wongzo. So with our Singapore classes, because of the time difference, we were having 9 o'clock. It was 7 o'clock Singapore time because the students work. So we were coming on at 9 o'clock at night till 10:30 at night. And then we'd have a chat afterwards, the tutors, to debrief, and we found it a very late night. So we've decided, we asked the students if they wanted to keep going on Tuesday nights. And many of the students decided they'd rather do a Saturday or a Sunday. So instead of Tuesday nights, we're doing a half day this Saturday, and then the following weekend we're going to do a half day Sunday. And so we have been flexible and listening to the students. And midway through the semester, we put up some feedback form so we could get some feedback from the students as to what was working and what we could do better. And that really helped us in planning what we were going to do for the rest of the semester. And also the students in Melbourne, for all their classes, they tend to set up their own Facebook groups. So they have a Facebook group for each unit they're doing, which only the students access, and they talk about what they've learned from each tutor, and sometimes they ask us questions as a group based on what they've been discussing in their Facebook group. Will the presentation become available again, Wangzo, or you're on mute? I can't hear you. Wangzo, will the presentation become available again? Yeah. Oh. Okay, so with assessment tasks, we found it a little bit challenging because we've had to do a lot more scaffolding and provide a lot of support. For the first assessment task, students had to write a case study about a professional and ethical issue that has occurred in an early childhood setting, and then discuss it and use supporting documents and literature. So that assessment task was okay. We workshopped it a lot in tutorials in small groups. For the second assessment task, we asked students to go and interview an early childhood professional who's working in an interdisciplinary team. Well, that's very difficult under current circumstances. So instead of the students having to go and conduct those interviews, we conducted a range of interviews for them. They're just 10-minute interviews, and then the students can use those interviews as the basis for writing up their assignment. Okay, next slide, please. So that's the end of my presentation about what we do at Monash. But Emily and Claire and Jessie and myself would like to thank Vic TESOL for their support. We're all members of the Victorian Association of TESOL active members. And we find that Vic TESOL, as a professional teachers association, is very supportive of our work in the field. So this is a clip from a photo from the Vic TESOL website, which has professional learning activities. We have a research grant and a range of resources available on the website. Next slide, please. So a couple of weeks ago, Vic TESOL presented workshops on learning from home, supporting EAL students remotely. And Jessie and Claire and Emily presented at those workshops. And then we had online discussion. And those workshops were very well attended. They were online via Zoom. And after the presentations, we broke out into breakout groups and discussed what was working for us in terms of our own online learning within our context. Next slide, please. So if you'd like to go to the Big TESOL website, you'll find a range of resources from those workshops, and all the teachers who participated in those workshops provided ideas about what's working for them, and sometimes the challenges too, in terms of working in the different contexts that they're working in. So there's compiled ideas of what is working generally within a Victorian context as far as home learning. Next slide, please. So as part of Big TESOL, we're members of the Australian Council of TESOL Associations, and we have the Australian TESOL Council has a conference every second year. It was to be this year in Brisbane. However, it's been postponed to 2021. It will be in Brisbane in September, and 2 years later, Big TESOL will be hosting it in Melbourne. So if you'd like to find out a little bit about that conference, you can go to the Australian Council of TESOL Association website. And we've really welcomed some participants from Indonesia and especially from Sulawesi to attend our conference, and some presenters as well. And the next slide, please. So, terima kasih. Thank you.
Sama-sama, Anna. Thank you very much, Anna Carey. So that's wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. I think the presentation has given us so many sights about how to do the teaching and the era of COVID-19, especially in using technology or digitally. So also to, of course, to Jessie, Claire, and also Emily. That was the great presentations. Well, so now we would like to open the question session to all of the participants who would like to make the questions. So please, you could type your questions in the comment, or if you would like to directly ask, okay, you can just start directly. Yes, Kim Changi, of course you can. So if you would like to start to ask, you can activate your speaker now and you can ask, and please mention to whom you would like to ask. All right. Okay, so we welcome you, Kim, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, Anne from Sulawesi. I think afternoon there.
Yes.
Okay. I'm from Muhammadiyah University of Nrekang. It's about 4 hours away, driving from Makassar city in South Sulawesi. The big deal that we face here that our university is located in very isolated area. So some of our students don't have good connections. Even they don't have any internet connections. So it's really hard to engage with the students online. So sometimes I submit the materials or I submit the assignments, but just 6 out of 28 students always do the assignments or join my class. So it's really a big deal and big challenges for us as lecturers in our university. So what do you think? How do you deal with that challenges or these problems?
I think.
Yeah, and then can I have another question for Emily?
Please. Mr.
Okay,
Kim.
for Emily, I know that you have some students from some countries, examples of from Vietnam, from the tons of Africa and China. So I think it's really hard to arrange the class because of different cultures. So do you have any problems with them? And also with the parents, how do you deal with the parents because of the COVID or pandemic? You have to teach online, and maybe the parents like, I can't teach my kids. It's supposed to your responsibility. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Wonderful question. So, any other questions? Or okay, while we are waiting for the other questions, I think you can start answering Mr. Kim's questions. So, the question is about some of the area in Indonesia. As we know, we are in the archipelago. So, some area is remote. Then, what do you think? How do you handle it, or how do you have any suggestion to handle this kind of maybe a barrier, and for Emily Tucker, and also the other speakers can answer this, of course. Yeah, please.
Or maybe it might be interesting for the others to answer the question about when students don't have the technology, because I know in the school situation there are a number of students, and our government has had to help set students up with internet and computers because of that issue. But it's very difficult for us to know how remote the university is in Sulawesi. So I think it does have to be an issue that is brainstormed and dealt with at a local level. But I know that some schools are posting out or delivering packages of material to students. Maybe Jessie or Claire or Emily would like to talk about that.
And I can elaborate a little bit more if you like on this point. So for students who don't have access to technology or were really unable to use the technology because they've never used a laptop before in their life, so they didn't know how to turn it on. For these students, we provided paper-based learning, and the government has provided mobile phones to every teacher. And so we use the mobile phones as the main means to communicate. And so we call the students 3 times a week to check with their learning, to see how they're going. And the main learning is paper. We're using the paper-based booklets. So maybe for university students, you know, you can give a lot of the readings, a lot of the work paper-based, and then calling to check with the students individually to see how they're going, asking questions about what they've learnt, and they can also prepare questions for the teacher for when they call, so they can ask their specific questions as well. So that's how we've approached it when technology has been an issue.
We've also done things where we've got students who do have access to laptops but don't have access to Wi-Fi. We've sent out USBs with work provided on it. So that way the students can still use technology for typing things up, and if they're doing graphs, they can use Excel, and then they save the work to the USB and they can send that back to the school. So we can use technology without accessing the internet, and as Jessie said, follow that up with phone calls to check in if there's any questions and things like this.
Yeah, Emily?
So I was just going to say quickly for us, so I think in terms of engaging with students, we've really found that the ones who haven't been attending and who are not engaged, we really need to video call them. And I think having the face-to-face engagement has really helped. And then potentially after having that initial face-to-face engagement, we can start to set them up to learn more independently. But I think initially we do need that. So because some of the students don't have smart devices, they don't have a phone, a smartphone that we can do that on. We've been sort of setting them up in different ways. Mainly, we've been looking for donations for phones. Unfortunately, we don't have the type of funding to just to go and buy these devices. So we've been sort of gathering donations and things like that. But I think mainly in terms of the engagement, if they're not doing any work that we set, we do need to have that face-to-face video call just to set them up for it. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Emily. So, Jessie, Claire, Anna. So, Mr. Kim, I hope the answers could answer your questions. All right. So, I've got the point here that they have the very similar way handle the problem, like especially the limited access of online learning. So like Jesse, they are using the book also, yeah. So could help the students if they have any issue in the online learning. Okay, so Dian Ardiana, please take your turn. You have any question? Time is yours.
Right. Thank you. Can you hear me clearly, Pak Wongso?
Very clear, Ibu Dian.
All right.
Yes.
Hello, Dr. Ann.
Hello.
Hello. I hope you still remember me.
Yes,
It's very nice to see you again here.
it's very nice to be here, even if it is online.
Yeah. And hello to the teachers. Hi, Emily, Jessie, and Claire.
Hello.
It's very nice to see you. Yeah. Thank you for delivering such a great presentations. I'd like to share one of my issues in my class that I have concerned the most is about the assessment. You know, in class, in normal situation, we always do like things like formative and summative assessment. While in online classes, I'm even still worried about whether my students can master can master the lesson that I teach them. So would you please share your experience in assessing the learning through online classes, whether you use online assessment or could you please share what your experience during this pandemic period? Thank you.
Okay, Ibu Dian. So these questions for all of us.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so please, I think Emily now first, please.
Sure.
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
You get it. Please go on.
Yeah, just about the assessments, right? So we've sort of just started now to do assessments, and I think we have been scaffolding them sort of in a similar way to the classroom environment for the assessments. So I think that hasn't really changed, but I found it actually to be really helpful to do online. Like, as I said in my presentation, I just did a Google form yesterday. That was really helpful just to like quickly sort of gauge where the student's at, if they're ready for the assessment, and see a summary of it, and just to gather the information quite quickly. But I think, in terms of scaffolding, we've sent out the paper assessments to each student. So when they do the assessment, we'll video call them, and then we're able to annotate and take notes about how they're going with it. But I think the content and the way we've scaffolded the content has been similar, but we're doing it in different modes. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Claire or Jessie. Okay, Jessie, please.
I can start off, and Claire, if there's anything I've missed, you can add in. So for the assessments, we started off just doing more formative assessment focus. So for each lesson, making sure we can do like a check for understanding, using, for example, a Kahoot. I don't know if you've used that before, but it's quite a fun interactive game. Or using the quizzes function in Google Classrooms. We also, for writing assessments online, so much like we would structure a unit normally, we start with the model text of what we want students to achieve, and then we work backwards from that. And so we've actually, building up that language online and lots of little lessons around the grammar points and the structure. And then with the model text, we show students the model text, we annotate it, and they have to do activities and answer questions around the model text and then have a go at writing it themselves. And students are using the Google Doc to do this. So we can actually go into the Google Doc and also give immediate feedback to students about how they're going with their writing. With reading comprehension, for the more capable students orally, we can ask them questions over the phone that target specific reading skills. And so we're using, like conversations about the text they've been reading, and doing specific skills. And for people listening as well, we're able to do an assessment over the phone or via Google Meet. And sometimes we've had students do presentations on Google Meet, and so they're presented to the class, and during that time, teachers have taken notes about their presentation skills and their speaking skills. We also use Google Forms to do grammar tests, which I said before, and that was really useful, really great source of data to see where the students were at, and that was great for planning as well because we could see what grammar focus we needed. So we actually have an assessment leader in our school, and she's prepared the grammar tests for different levels, and we've got the 4 levels that align with the curriculum here, and we're in the process of creating speaking and listening, reading and writing assessments as well, but that's coming. And we found that having ongoing notes, we've been putting notes into Microsoft Teams, which is shared by the team of staff, and just writing those notes every time we speak with students. So we're doing that 3 times a week. We can see patterns of how students are progressing. And this has been invaluable to inform our assessment, not just of the reading and writing, speaking and listening, but also their learning skills and how they're engaging with the learning online. So that's what we're also reporting on as well. I hope that helps. Claire, is there anything I've missed?
Very clear. Yeah, please, Claire.
I was just thinking, I set my students a test today. There is also an element of trust. So normally when we do, at least in a school or classroom environment, if students are doing a test, you're walking around and having a look at what's happening. So I've found that setting open book tests where I tell the students, I understand you have access to a lot of things and I'm not able to look things over. So sort of modifying your expectations a little bit. If students are sitting at home alone, they're going to be quite tempted to pick up the textbook or their workbook that has all of the answers and all of the working out in it. So modifying your expectations to understand that, but also trusting that students are going to do the right thing and not just copy all of their answers from Wikipedia or from Google. So there's a little bit of knowing your students. So for some students, some forms of assessment might not be suitable during this period of time. But I think that the sources of data we get from students' assessments are still really valid. So as Jessie said, using the Google Forms, we managed to get quite a good idea of what we should be focusing on grammar-wise for our students. And yeah, I think there is still a lot of value with assessments, but do modify your expectations and do understand, know your students well.
In saying that, Claire, also just wanted to add that we have had issues with plagiarism. Students are wanting to do the best they can, and so they feel like by getting someone else's work, it's better than what they can do themselves, and that's, they want to please the teacher. So we've had to also explain this during our Google Meet and what learning is. And so if students understand how to learn and that, their process of their thinking and understanding is part of learning, then they're less likely to plagiarise. So it's also embedding that mindset as well into students, and that's what we try and do at the start of every term.
All right. Well, I think it's very clear, Ibu Dian. So you get the point, I guess. It's very clear question from all of the speakers. Maybe, Anna, you would like to add something? Or yeah? Okay.
Yes. Our assessment hasn't changed too much because in our unit of work, which is across 12 weeks, students in an undergraduate course are expected to do 2 pieces of assessment, which is approximately 2,000 words per assessment task. But we've found that with the online learning, in our tutorials and lectures and through the Moodle site, we've scaffolded that assessment a lot more. So students have been able to, when they had to write their case study and then we would give them some feedback on their case study, or they had to write about it. And then in the Zoom, into breakout assessment task, indeed. The first piece of assessment now words, and the students are much the same standard as they would normally be. The second piece of assessment we do is actually an oral presentation where they have 5 slides, 5 PowerPoint slides, and students have to orally present their presentation. They upload that to the Moodle site and we mark that online again. So the assessment tasks haven't changed so much. The first assessment we see more as formative assessment where we provide a lot of feedback, whereas the second assessment task is at the end of the 12 weeks and we don't see the students after that. But we do give a lot of, for 3 or 4 weeks beforehand, we give a lot of support for the students. The students have asked to see some of the 2,000 word assignments from past years. I don't like to give whole assignments as models, but we'll pull out paragraphs of the assignments to show how to write up the assignment and use literature to. Sometimes we do like joint construction of writing where we will write on the whiteboard how to write up a paragraph, an introduction or a discussion section or a conclusion. So we're modelling to the students how to write academically. So we do a lot of scaffolding to support students, and we would do that whether we're face-to-face or online.
Okay, thank you, Anna. So, all right, in the comment, we have many questions here, bunch of questions. I hope you're ready. I hope you, so we still have time around, 15 to 30 minutes, I guess, if you are okay with that, Anna, Claire, Jose, Emily. Okay, well, so the next question is, this is from Siti Hardianti Bahnar. What the teacher or lecturer should do when the students feel bored about teaching and learning via technology or online? Because as we know that the technology cannot replacing the teacher's role in the class. So not only teaching, but also to deliver the material. So what do you think? What do you have any maybe suggestions or something to help the students who like they get bored in technology via online meeting like this, please?
I think for our students, the key is to use humour, make it fun, so then there's something exciting for them to come. So we've done lots of silly games and, for example, we had prepare before class, like bring something to class to share, like a show and tell. And so a lot of students and me, I brought my cat to the meeting just to make it a bit more fun and lighten the mood. We also played a game where you say a letter, for example, say the letter P, and the students have to run away and find something that starts with the letter P and come back, and they come up with, for example, a pen, and it's the first student to come back. So trying to make it engaging and fun to just get them happy to see their classmates and have some sort of interactive activities at the start of each lesson to kind of loosen the mood and make them feel more engaged in the whole in this whole situation.
We've done similar things with our university classes, and every week we either wear a hat and we tell them about the hat that we're wearing or our favourite T-shirt. Because we do them at night, we're going to show them our favourite pair of slippers in Singapore, and all the Singaporean students go, "Oh, it must be cold in Melbourne with all the clothes that you're wearing because it's so hot in Singapore." But also, I guess at a university, it's so high stakes, the assessment, that we weren't sure how we would go with attendance online, but we've been very pleased because every week we have more than 100 Singaporean students online, and every week we have about 35 out of 60 students from the Australian course online. And then they always, for the students who aren't online, they can watch the recorded lectures.
Okay, Emily.
Yeah, so I think for our learners who are all older adults as well, we probably haven't been playing as much games, but we've been trying to make the material as engaging as possible. So also using humour in different ways. If they get bored, like if we notice they're fading out of the WhatsApp group, we'll send like a funny GIF or something. But also trying to make the material just like authentic and engaging. So like our unit is on numeracy at the moment. So I went to the supermarket and took pictures of the supermarket and the prices of everything and made a video. So sort of making it as authentic as possible and welcoming their input as well. So they're always sending photos of their lunch or what they did on the weekend. So we really welcome that sort of thing. So it doesn't really feel just like a boring classroom. Yeah.
All right.
I'll just add to what Jessie was saying. We are fortunate in that most of our students are online, and so we do a meet-up every morning where we have all the students in the class online. And I think for the students, because they have been isolated for a long period of time, that opportunity to see their classmates and talk to them, I think is crucial. And I know that the work that I received from the students once we started the online learning and I could check in with them and talk to them every day and laugh with them every day was of quite a different standard to when it was just we'd talk briefly on the phone when we were doing the paper stuff. So I think even though online learning isn't perfect, it's certainly been good for the students and good for myself and the other teachers to be able to have that interaction with the students. And as I said, I do know that it's harder because, as was previously mentioned, not everybody has access to the face-to-face, but phone calls can also be really good for actually engaging the students by reminding them that there is a teacher who does care about them and does want them to do well and is there to help them if they need it. So I think having that communication between teacher and student, between student and student can be really crucial for keeping students engaged.
All right, so very great answer. So for the next, maybe, okay, so from Miss Diane again. All right. Oh yeah. So Mr. Kim, before Emily has answered your second questions in the comments, so you can check it out. So for the next question from Miss Diane. So should we set the schedule? So should we set the schedule on the number of meeting the same as the real meeting in the class? In the courses in Indonesia commonly have 16 meetings for each course. So do you think we need to set the exact time or schedule like what we did in the offline class in this online class maybe? Okay, so yeah, please.
I could start with that. Well, Monash University sent us out some guidelines and suggested that we don't have exactly the same amount of time as we would with an online class. So, for example, the unit that I'm teaching in Melbourne, we would usually have 2-hour workshops once per week. And Monash said that they didn't want us to be doing 2-hour online workshops because they thought that it would be too tedious and too boring and too much for the students and too much for the lecturer to be online for 2 hours presenting a workshop. So we cut back to do 1 hour workshops, but the expectation is that the students will engage with the online activities on Moodle a lot more than previously. And we try to make them as interactive as possible. And we set time aside to interact with the students online on the Moodle online learning platform. But some of the students didn't quite understand that online learning is different to face-to-face learning, and that it wouldn't be exactly the same, that there wouldn't be a 2-hour workshop. Anyway, we did negotiate with the Melbourne students as we went along. They found that 1 hour face-to-face wasn't enough, so we extended it to 1 hour and a quarter each week. And also with the first assessment task, we had an optional extra online session which students could participate in to get some more support. So we're being flexible and depending on student feedback, tweaking what we're doing. But the university saw that online isn't exactly the same as face-to-face type of forum.
Okay, what about others? Claire, Emily, Jesse, do you have any addition, please? Jesse?
Yep. The Department of Education in Australia gave the time that students should be learning from home. And so we used this to when we have our lessons during the week. So the guidelines were be approximately 45 to 60 minutes per day. Numeracy was about 30 to 45 minutes, 30 minutes of physical activity every day, and 90 minutes of other subject areas every day. So this gave us a total of about just over 3 hours of learning each day, which is much less to a normal classroom. So we really had to lower our expectations, and we're providing a lot less than you would normally in a face-to-face classroom. So we did it so we had about 90 minutes of English every day. Yeah, we have sport every day as well. And then we split the subjects across the other days. So for humanities, science and maths, they were allocated across the week. So that means that the lessons are, about 45 to 50 minutes each. And also the teachers were quite responsive with their students. If the students were sort of in those beginner levels, sometimes it's really hard, and so the attention span is a lot less. So we were making shorter lessons for those students, just more kind of short, engaging, smaller lessons, maybe 30 minutes or so.
Teachers were also doing different things depending on the needs of their students. So for the higher level groups, some teachers are checking in the morning and then have a period of time when they're online where students can check in and check out if they need help, and we've always got the phones they can text us on if they need additional assistance. But there's also been a lot of teachers have found that it's a lot easier to pre-record some of the lessons, particularly for the more advanced students. So they present a pre-recorded lesson. It's almost like a recorded lecture, and then they provide assistance as we go. Because with the recorded things, it means students can go back, rewind, rewatch, pause it, slow it down as needed. Whereas for teachers with lower levels, they might be spending more deliberate face-to-face time. The more advanced students can often regulate and determine for themselves when they need assistance, rather than the teacher constantly having to come in and say, we will meet at 2:00 so we can all talk about what's needed.
So sorry for carrying bush. For us, so we have the requirements from our funding sources are that the students are engaged for a full 5 hours every day. So we have to prove that they've been engaged for that amount of time, plus also the homework. So we've basically had different structures, different daily structures for different students based on their access to technology and also their level. But for example, for our WhatsApp group, we start at 9:30 and we finish at 3. so they are engaged for quite a long time, but there's an hour break in between there, and I'm sure they also take their own breaks throughout the day. But we set tasks throughout the day and we engage with them in different ways. So then otherwise for the students who aren't on that group, we call them and we do video calls for about 15 to 20 minutes per day. So yeah, and then we set tasks for them and set different tasks for them to do in the time that they're not video calling with us. And we've also, like Claire, we've been pre-recording some videos so they can watch them in their own time as well. But I know some teachers who are in the higher levels are Zooming their students for about 2 hours each day. Yeah.
All right. Wow. So very amazing answer. So I hope all of the questioners, all of the participants could get the point and be satisfied for the answer. I think for me it's very clear. All of the answers are very clear. So all right. So we have like 5 to 7 minutes more before we finish this international webinar. So maybe I would like to ask also, I hope this is okay. So maybe, and this is maybe become the represent for all of the participants and all of the lecturers and teachers out there. So just now we have talked about the students. So what about Jessie and then Claire and then Emily and Anne? So how do you keep yourself well motivated along this pandemic COVID-19? So not only the teachers get stressed in the quarantine day, I'm sure you yourself, because I feel it too. We cannot go out. So how do you keep yourself well motivated? And then, as we know that students must show us cheerful, like right now in the camera. When the camera on, the smile must keep on. So could you please give us the what do you do to keep being well motivated? Yeah, please. Maybe start from Anna, please.
Okay, so I'm in an unusual situation. Usually I live in Melbourne, a big city with about 4 million people. But during this COVID-19 period, I have moved down to a small coastal town called Waratah Bay, where only about 50 people live. And there's a beautiful beach. So every morning I make sure that I go for an hour, walk along the beach to stay fit. And I have a koala living in a gum tree at the back of my house. And I have kookaburras which wake me up at 6 o'clock every morning. So it's very beautiful here and it's very quiet and I feel very safe. But I do have to make sure that I take breaks during the day because it's very easy to just keep working and not to look after yourself and take time out in the evening away from your work to relax. And I find that because COVID-19 is a very intense time, to have the TV on with the news all the time can get a little bit too much. So I've made sure that I limit the amount of TV news that I watch. But I have Zoom meetings maybe 3 or 4 times a day with my colleagues. And we don't just talk about work, but we ask each other how we are and how the families are. And I think we are being even more collaborative than we would normally be and even more caring. And I think that's important.
Okay, Emily.
Yeah, I think it has been a lot of work. I think the workload is definitely a lot higher than normal, and the hours have been very, very long. Just because as well, for our requirements, because we need to engage the students for so long, and then we need to record all of their engagement, all of their communication. So they're pretty long days, and it's a lot of time spent in front of the screen typing and then engaging students. But also I think, having said that, it is a lot of work, but it's been really enjoyable I've really enjoyed being so creative in this process. So it has been really good in that way. But to take time away from the work. I think, as Anne was saying, it's really important. I've been trying to get up early and go for a walk in the park near my house, and I'm also lucky because I have a very cute Labrador who I live with. So she's been providing a lot of therapy and cuddles for me. But yeah, I think it's lots of different ways, but it is important to take time off work and just turn off the computer and turn off the phone for a while.
Okay, yeah, Jessie, please.
In the beginning, so as the curriculum coordinator, coordinating everything, I was so busy, didn't have a time to be bored or lose motivation. There was no time. And I probably did about 3 weeks worth of work in 1 week. So I think for me, it was about, once everything's kind of come back to normal, it's about managing my time and being very efficient and making sure that I have, said, okay, I've got 20 minutes for this task. I get it done in 20 minutes and then you have a break. So efficiency and productivity is being key, and making sure that I turn off my computer at 6 o'clock or 5:30 and that's it. No more work for the evening. And then focusing on other things, like I've just bought a house, so painting the house, being creative, making pottery, the kind of things that are very mindful. It's been great to relax and do something different that's away from the computer. And also, as part of the leadership team, we sort of need to go to school as well. So I have been going to school, even though there's no students. And so it's been good to have that interaction with some staff members there too. So that's been good. So like every second day almost I've been at school, and then every other day I'm at home. It depends on the needs. So that's how I've been managing myself.
All right, Claire, please.
In a lot of ways, I'm quite similar to the other three. So I found that it's really easy to keep working and you're still sending emails at 9:30 at night. So not just stepping away from the computer, but making sure you close it. I've found going for a walk at lunchtime is important, because otherwise I was sitting at my desk eating while I was, typing work or correcting it for the students. So physically getting away and getting some fresh air. I've been spending a bit of time out in the garden, and I have a little dog who likes to help me dig in the backyard. So, spending time with the dog, and also making sure that I'm talking to friends and family has been really important to me, checking in to see how everyone's going. And I also found, again, I know that we're quite lucky in that most of our students have access to videos, but the difference for me as a teacher from when I was doing paper learning to seeing my students every day, they're the reason I'm a teacher. I love teaching the students and getting to actually see them more. When we were doing paper-based learning, when I could talk to them and hear their voices and hear what was going on, they're the reason I'm an educator, and having that contact with the students makes it worthwhile.
All right, excellent. So, it's very well motivated. So, and it inspires me too. And I hope all of the lecturers and teachers outside there also, they are inspired by your way to get well motivated. I'm very thankful for this opportunity to talk to four of you, Anna, Jessie, Emily, and also Claire. Thank you very much for this sharing. It's very useful for us, very valuable for us here in Indonesia, because we're still also looking for the right path in order to do this online learning. Of course, every day we are learning, we are studying for this. Okay, then. For the conclusion, I would like to mention I've got 3 points from all of the presentations just now, that in the online learning, especially in this pandemic Covid-19, it's very important to use or to make use the different or the various kinds of technology. So not only one technology that based on the presentation just now, I've got that not only one technology that is good, but all of the technology is good to make use and then try to make it useful as the maximum way to use it. The second one is about the trust. So sometimes we know that the students are there sitting and then they can open the book, they can do something like sitting or something, but we just give the trust. We tell the students that it's we always believe them, and then we know that they will do the best based on what we trust. And then the third one is about in order to make the meeting is fun, you just need to give some variations. I mean, to be creative. Like just now, Jessie, Emily, and Claire mentioned that you have to make jokes sometimes, or some humor, or bring something others like bring the cat, in order to attract them, like that. All right. So that's it. I think the conclusion for our presentation for today regarding the teaching and learning process, English teaching and learning process in the era of COVID-19. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Anakiri from Monash, Jessie, Emily, and Claire. Thank you very much. This is very valuable for us. Maybe you have something to say, Anna, before we close this webinar.
Yes, thank you very much for inviting us to present today. It's been such a pleasure, and it's been interesting to hear what the others have had to say, as well as to respond to some of the questions. So we hope that we'll be able to keep this collaboration going, whether it's online or by visiting Makassar, or we'd like the people from Makassar to come and visit us too in Melbourne and at Big TESOL as well. So it's been a wonderful opportunity, and it's been so great to be able to liaise again and have this conversation. Terima kasih.
Sama-sama, Anna. Thank you very much. So I really hope to see you in person, all of you, in the next time in the near future. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's all for today, guys. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Stay safe. Please keep healthy, and send my regards to all of your students also there. Okay, so see you. And all of the participants, thank you very much for joining this international webinar. We will meet again, I hope so, in the next international webinar. So thank you. Have a nice day, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bye-bye.
Selamat.